Could a whisper of the past truly echo in our present? Could a spirit forged in the unforgiving crucible of the Middle Ages truly find its footing in the dizzying, bewildering dance of 2025? And in turn, could you, with your digital compass and your curated comfort, navigate the brutal, beautiful tapestry of their world? These are not idle questions, born of fantasy. These are inquiries into the very sinews of human resilience, the elasticity of our spirit, and the astonishing, sometimes terrifying, adaptability of the human animal. We stand on the precipice of a grand thought experiment today, a journey through time and temperament, a quest for understanding what truly defines survival. And I promise you, by the end of this journey, you will see not just the medieval peasant, or even yourself in a new light, but perhaps the very nature of humanity itself. We will delve into real historical data, into the quiet whispers of psychological studies and the robust findings of web-based research to peel back the layers of assumption and reveal the raw, often surprising truths. Imagine, for a fleeting moment, a soul born not of Wi-Fi and air conditioning, but of mud and toil, of the rhythmic thud of the hoe against unforgiving earth, of the scent of wood smoke and damp straw. Let us call him Thomas. Thomas, a man of the 13th century, born into a world where the sun was his clock, the church bell his news, and the land his demanding, mercurial god. His hands, calloused before he saw his 20th spring, knew the intimate texture of every crop, the weight of every tool. His eyes, keen from scanning distant horizons for signs of rain or raiders, held a wisdom born not of books, but of raw, unadulterated experience. Now, transport Thomas with his homespun tunic and his earnest, weathered face to the bustling, cacophonous heart of London in 2025. The sheer visual assault alone would be enough to shatter his quiet sensibilities. The towering steel and glass leviathans reaching for the clouds, dwarfing the grandest cathedral he had ever known. The constant, electric hum of 1,000 unseen machines, the blinding flash of advertising screens, the relentless stream of information bombarding every sense. A 2023 study by the American Psychological Association found that prolonged exposure to high levels of sensory stimuli can lead to significant cognitive overload and anxiety, even in individuals accustomed to modern environments. For Thomas, it would be a tsunami of sensory input, a relentless, unceasing roar that would make the wildest storm he had ever weathered seem like a gentle breeze. Consider the simple act of crossing the street. The concept of traffic, of designated lanes, of traffic lights would be utterly alien. The sheer speed of vehicles, the lack of horses, the bewildering array of self-propelled metal beasts, it would be a terrifying ballet of unpredictable movement. His natural instinct, honed by a lifetime of vigilance for wild animals or brigands, would be to freeze, to seek cover. He would lack the internal map, the unconscious algorithms that allow us to navigate our urban landscapes with relative ease.
And the food. Oh, the food. Thomas knew the taste of hard-won bread, often gritty with the chaff from last year's harvest. He knew the seasonal bounty of the forest, the lean meat of hunted game, the simple comfort of root vegetable stew. In 2025, he would be confronted by aisles stretching into infinity, groaning under the weight of exotic fruits, processed foods in vibrant, impossible colors, and meats from every corner of the globe. The concept of refrigeration, of food preserved for months, even years, would be a miracle beyond comprehension. He would likely be deeply suspicious of anything not immediately recognizable as natural, and the sheer abundance, the waste, would likely fill him with a profound sense of unease, perhaps even moral outrage. A 2024 article on Listverse detailing the scarcity and monotony of medieval diets paints a stark picture of a world where every calorie was precious, every morsel a blessing. But beyond the superficial, how would Thomas fare with the underlying structures of our society? The concept of money, in its purely digital form, would be utterly baffling. Where is the tangible gold, the silver, the coins that clinked in his small leather purse? The idea of a credit card, of a bank account, of transactions happening without the physical exchange of goods or currency would be as magical as Merlin's spells. He would be entirely dependent on the kindness of strangers, or more likely, the sharp practices of those who would exploit his ignorance. And the communication, the smartphone, that ubiquitous extension of our modern selves, would be a device of pure sorcery. The ability to speak to someone across continents, to access the sum of human knowledge with a few taps, to capture images and share them instantly. It would be an affront to his understanding of reality, a violation of the natural order. His world was one of spoken word, of handwritten letters carried by messengers over treacherous roads, of news that traveled slowly, distorted by rumor and time. He would lack the language, both literal and conceptual, to even begin to understand the digital realm. Now, let us flip the coin. Let us take you, a denizen of 2025 with your AirPods and your Instagram feed, and place you firmly in Thomas's muddy, challenging world. The year is 1285. The village is small, isolated. The nearest town is a day's arduous walk. Your smartphone, that lifeblood of your modern existence, is a useless brick. Your knowledge, gleaned from Wikipedia and YouTube tutorials, suddenly seems flimsy, abstract. The first challenge, and perhaps the most immediate, would be the sheer physical labor. You are likely accustomed to a life of relative comfort, of climate-controlled environments, of chairs and desks. The medieval peasant's life was a ceaseless cycle of physical exertion, plowing, sowing, harvesting, all done by hand or with rudimentary tools, chopping wood for fuel, fetching water from the communal well, tending livestock. Every task was a full-body workout. Your muscles would ache in places you didn't know existed. Your hands, soft from keyboards and touchscreens, would quickly blister and crack.
And the hygiene, the concept of daily bathing, of readily available soap and clean water would be a foreign luxury. You would be constantly, uncomfortably dirty. The air would be thick with the smells of unwashed bodies, animal waste, and wood smoke. Disease, a constant, terrifying shadow in the medieval world, would be an ever-present threat. The Black Death, though not yet arrived in 1285, was a grim reminder of the fragility of life. Even common illnesses, easily treated today, could be death sentences. A simple cut could lead to a fatal infection. The very air you breathed, the water you drank, would be teeming with pathogens your immune system, accustomed to a sanitized existence, would be ill-equipped to fight. A 2022 report by the World Health Organization on historical epidemics underscores the devastating impact of infectious diseases in pre-modern societies. Consider the mental fortitude required. The uncertainty of existence was a constant companion. Famine was a recurring specter, its gaunt shadow stretching across the land when crops failed. War, or the threat of it, loomed perpetually. The whims of the local lord could mean the difference between life and death. There was no social safety net, no government assistance. Survival was a solitary, often brutal endeavor. Your modern anxieties, deadlines, social media approval, economic uncertainty, would seem trivial in the face of such raw existential threats. Have you ever truly wondered if you could survive a world without electricity, without the internet, without the endless hum of modern convenience? Share your thoughts below. We read every comment, and your reflections truly enrich this conversation. Let me tell you a story, not of Thomas, but of Ilara, a young woman in a small village nestled in a valley, her life intertwined with the rhythm of the seasons. One year, the rains failed. Not just a little, but utterly. The fields withered, the crops turned to dust, the livestock grew gaunt. Day after day, Ilara watched the sky, her heart a drumbeat of dread. The church bells, usually a comfort, now rang with a hollow, despairing tone. Her younger brother, barely a child, grew weaker with each passing week. She would lie awake at night, the gnawing emptiness in her stomach mirroring the emptiness in her soul. She gathered wild berries, foraged for edible roots, anything to bring a meager sustenance to her family. The memory of her younger brother's fading breath, of his tiny hand growing cold in hers, would forever be etched into her very being. And in that moment, something inside her hardened, a resolve born of pure, unadulterated grief and the raw, primal instinct to survive. She emerged from that famine not broken, but forged, a testament to the brutal, beautiful strength that necessity could awaken. Compare Ilara's ordeal with the anxieties of a modern office worker, Sarah, whose biggest fear is a server crash, losing days of work on a crucial project. Her stress is real, the pressure immense, but the consequences, while impactful on her career, rarely threaten her very existence. The modern person's anxieties are often abstract, tethered to the digital realm, to financial markets, to societal expectations. The medieval peasants' anxieties were concrete, immediate, and often life-threatening. This isn't to diminish modern struggles, but to highlight the fundamental difference in the nature of adversity. The psychological toll would be immense. The constant fear, the lack of control, the primitive understanding of the world, it would challenge your deeply ingrained sense of agency. A 2020 paper published in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders discussed the concept of existential anxiety, highlighting how uncertainty about basic survival needs can lead to profound psychological distress. You, accustomed to a world where solutions are often just a search engine query away, would be confronted with problems that had no easy answers, only brute force, community effort, or the fickle hand of fate. Consider the role of knowledge. You are a product of a world swimming in information. You can learn almost anything with a few clicks. In the medieval world, knowledge was scarce, often held by the few, the clergy, the scribes. Superstition and folklore often filled the gaps left by scientific understanding. You might possess theoretical knowledge of agriculture, of medicine, but without the practical tools, the lived experience, it would be largely useless. Your intellectual prowess, your critical thinking skills would be severely tested in a world where empirical evidence was often dismissed in favor of divine intervention or ancient tradition.
Let's delve deeper into the darker corners of the medieval world, corners that would truly test the modern psyche. Imagine yourself, a modern individual, accused of a crime you did not commit. There are no lawyers, no due process as we understand it. Justice is swift, often brutal, and based on superstition and local custom. A 2024 article on medievaltorturemuseum.com chillingly details the instruments of justice: the rack, the thumbscrews, the Iron Maiden. The concept of innocent until proven guilty was a distant dream. Trial by ordeal, by hot iron, by water, was a common practice. The psychological impact of such a system, where your fate rested not on evidence, but on a divine sign, would be unfathomable. A 2024 report by Penal Reform International, while focusing on modern prison systems, often references the historical lack of humane treatment and due process, drawing a stark contrast with current legal frameworks. Take the case of Alfred, a simple farmer, accused of stealing a pig. His accuser was a wealthy lord, his word carrying more weight than any peasant's. Alfred was subjected to the ordeal of hot iron. A heated bar held in his hand, his fate determined by whether the wound festered or healed cleanly in 3 days. The agony, the fear, the sheer injustice of it all. And in that moment, as the scorching iron seared his flesh, something inside him died.
a spark of hope extinguished by the brutal, unyielding reality of his world. Could you, with your modern sensibilities, your belief in fairness and rights, endure such an ordeal? The psychological trauma alone would be profound, perhaps irreparable. The solitude, too, would be a challenge. While medieval villages were tight-knit communities, the concept of personal space was limited. Yet the vastness of the natural world, the isolation from other settlements, the lack of instantaneous connection, it would be a profound shift for someone accustomed to constant digital connectivity. Imagine the silence. Not the comfortable silence of a quiet room, but the deep, echoing silence of a world without engines, without sirens, without the hum of electricity. It would be a silence that could either soothe or amplify the anxieties of a mind accustomed to constant external stimulation. And yet, there is a hidden truth here. While the medieval peasant would undoubtedly struggle with the complexities of 2025, and the modern person would face immense hardship in the 13th century, there is a shared core of humanity that transcends time. The capacity for love, for loss, for joy, for despair, these are universal experiences. Thomas, for all his lack of modern knowledge, possessed an intimate understanding of his environment, a resilience forged in the fires of necessity, a deep connection to the rhythms of nature. He knew how to read the clouds, how to coax life from the soil, how to build shelter with his own hands. These are skills we have largely outsourced, forgotten in our specialized world. The problem we explore today is the apparent chasm between these two worlds. The reflection reveals the vast differences in technology, social structure, and lived experience. But the hidden truth is this: human adaptability is an astonishing force. While the initial shock would be immense for both, the capacity to learn, to adjust, to find new ways of surviving is a deeply ingrained human trait. A 2021 study on neuroplasticity published in Nature Reviews Neuroscience details the brain's incredible capacity for adaptation and learning throughout life. And Thomas, in 2025, while the initial shock might indeed be incapacitating, his deep-seated resilience, his practical problem-solving skills, and his capacity for hard work would eventually find an outlet. He would gravitate towards tasks that utilize his physical strength, his manual dexterity. Perhaps he would find work in construction or in a market garden. He would learn to observe, to mimic, to adapt. His quiet stoicism, his ability to endure hardship, would serve him well in a world that, despite its comforts, still presents its own unique stresses. He would eventually learn about money, about transportation, about the basic social norms, albeit slowly and with much confusion. His inherent respect for authority and community would likely make him a quick study in navigating social interactions, even if he found the pace and anonymity bewildering. The solution, then, is not about one being better or worse at survival. It is about understanding the nature of survival. It is about recognizing that true resilience is not simply the ability to withstand hardship, but the capacity to adapt, to learn, to find new pathways when old ones are blocked. It is about the human spirit's remarkable ability to bend without breaking, to find light in the darkest corners. Think of it: the peasant enduring famine and plague, the modern person navigating digital overload and existential dread. Both are expressions of the human struggle, both revealing the deep wellsprings of courage and adaptability that lie within us all.
This exploration allows us to look at our own lives with new eyes. Do we truly appreciate the abundance, the ease, the knowledge that surrounds us? Do we take for granted the very systems that underpin our comfort and safety? And conversely, have we lost something in our relentless pursuit of convenience? Have we traded practical skills for a digital proficiency, deep connection with nature for fleeting online interactions? The medieval peasant teaches us the raw power of physical labor. the profound satisfaction of tangible creation, and the deep, abiding connection to the land that sustained them. They teach us the importance of community, of shared burdens, of relying on one another in times of crisis. They teach us a patience born of waiting for the seasons, a humility born of confronting the unpredictable forces of nature. The modern individual, in turn, teaches us the power of information, the beauty of innovation, the boundless possibilities that arise from human ingenuity and collaboration. We understand the interconnectedness of the world, the importance of global perspectives, and the potential for technological solutions to address complex problems. Ultimately, the question, could a medieval peasant survive 2025, and could you survive their world, becomes less about a definitive yes or no, and more about the universal human capacity for change. It is about the remarkable flexibility of our minds and bodies. It is about the enduring spark of the human spirit that, across centuries and civilizations, seeks to adapt, to overcome, to thrive. So, as we conclude this journey through time, I invite you to carry these reflections forward. Consider your own resilience. Consider the skills you possess, both tangible and intangible. And perhaps, just perhaps, look at the world around you with a renewed sense of wonder, and at the human story, stretching back through the ages, with a deeper appreciation for the enduring strength and adaptability that defines us all. Thank you for joining me on this profound exploration. If this journey resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from this perspective. Your comments and reflections are invaluable. Share your thoughts below on what you believe true survival means and how you think you would fare in a world utterly different from your own. Until next time, stay curious, stay reflective, and never underestimate the boundless power of the human spirit.